Hey guys, it's Max. In this video, we are comparing the brand new AirPods Max to the Sony XM4s. I'm not gonna say the full name. And not only are we gonna compare their transparency and ambient modes, their active noise cancellation, latency over Bluetooth, audio quality, but we're also gonna look at both an Android phone with the higher quality codec, and we're gonna stream some super high quality 174 Hertz songs wired and see which one of these deserves your money. Let's get the cases out of the way, and I have to say that this case on the AirPods Max is probably Apple's worst product of the year. So far, I haven't really used it. I've just been leaving it by itself. It's inconvenient, doesn't really protect the AirPods Max that much apart from bumping into each other. And the worst part is these don't turn off. There's no way to shut them off unless you put them in that case, or you can wait about 2 hours for them to shut off on their own. Now I'm gonna be doing some battery life tests to see how much that drains and the overall battery life without noise cancellation. So click that button below to subscribe if you wanna see that. And along with that, you guys can help us reach our goal of 550K before the end of the year. Now for the Sonys, this is the kind of a case that most of us would prefer. You get protection all around, a nice hard case. If you open them up, not only, well, I opened them the wrong way, but you have access to your headphones. You also have little slots to store cables, to charge. You get a little adapter for airplanes. This is what I'm hoping third parties will make for the AirPods. Now Sony, like most manufacturers, gives you a 3.5mm cable, where Apple, you can also use the AirPods Max wired, but you have to spend another 35 bucks. The AirPods Max have a single lightning jack for charging or for using it as wired headphones, so you can't use them both wired and charge at the same time, whereas the Sonys, you actually have both dedicated separate ports, so if you wanted to, you could do that, but the charging cable is very short. Of course, you can use both with Bluetooth while you're charging, and as far as battery life, the Sonys are rated for 30 hours with active noise cancellation compared to 20 hours, but it's interesting that the sound guys, they actually got about 18 to 19 hours with the Sonys with their standard 75 decibel test, whereas with the AirPods, they have actually surprised me with how little battery they drain, so I think Apple may have understated them. Now the next thing that really stands out is weight. The AirPods Max are actually really heavy in my hand right now. The Sonys are about 50% lighter. But when it comes to comfort on your head, I've actually been really surprised. So I own a pair of XM3s, and even though they're fairly soft and they're lightweight, you still feel the headband quite a bit from the top, and the actual cushions here, they're not as soft as you would expect. So after about 2 to 3 hours, they do start becoming a little bit of a pain and you get some pressure built up. The AirPods Max use this very interesting net kind of design for the headband without anything over here. So it's very interesting. When you put them on, you barely feel the headband. What I feel more is just weight on the sides here. It's a little more substantial around your ears. But with that, this kind of a design for the ear cups, it is quite a bit softer than the ones on the Sonys. So even though you feel the weight, the pressure is lower. So far, the AirPods Max have surprised me by how comfortable they are on the head, but I'm gonna have to test them for a lot longer, say 6 hours, 8 hours at a time, and I'll let you guys know about long-term comfort in the final review, along with the real-world battery life. As far as build quality, honestly, they do not compare. I don't wanna say that the Sonys feel cheap. They don't. There's a lot of other headphones that feel much cheaper, but they are completely made out of plastic, which helps them be nice and lightweight, but they don't feel premium. They just feel decent or average, whereas the all aluminum and stainless steel with the nice texturized rubber with the AirPods Max feel incredible. They're the best, most premium feeling headphones that I've ever, used in my life. Now, with that said, one thing that I don't like about the build or the design at least is that you can't fold these cups in. You can only twist them, so they still take up quite a bit of room. What I really love about the Sonys is that you can also fold these up like this. You can make them compact. Makes it really easy to just toss them into your bag or your backpack, and they just take up much less room. Along with that, with the Sonys, I'm okay with tossing them in my bag. I'm not worried about scratches just because this has a plastic with a little bit of rubberized coating and the pad is more substantial. I feel like it's gonna be more durable without seeing any issues or any scratches. Whereas with the AirPods Max, not only am I worried about the aluminum scratching and you're gonna see silver underneath there, or maybe these bumping against each other, but also with this band that's very minimal, I think it can scratch or rip much easier. And then of course, along with that, we have a massive difference in prices. You're looking at right now with the sale, about 280 bucks, so about half the price compared to the AirPods Max. So if you damage and break them, you just buy another pair. Now let's get into how you use these headphones. One thing that's great about the Max is that you have perfectly fine, minute controls. There's no little clicks, so you can get these exactly how you want them to fit. And there's actually a lot of tension, so they're not gonna accidentally move or adjust. With most headphones, you have these little clicks here, as you guys can hear, and so there's little notches, so you can't dial in the adjustment exactly how you want them. As far as controls, the AirPods have a button to toggle between your transparency mode and your active noise cancellation, and you have this little digital crown. So what I love is that you can just quickly pick up your hand, swipe one way or the other, spin it, adjust your volume, and then you can press down a couple times if you want to skip tracks or go back. And the button feel is excellent. With the Sonys, this is probably their biggest downfall. You have a touch sensitive surface, and with my XM3s, they are super sensitive. It's hard to put in the right controller. Sometimes you're just using it on accident. You're doing things that you don't want to do. And Sony, they realized that and they turned down the sensitivity on the XM4s, but they turned them down too much. So now it's kind of hard to put an input into there. So overall, I really like the controls on the AirPods Max. Now, one thing that's great about AirPods is as soon as you take them off, it pauses your music, which my XM3s didn't have, but the XM4s also have an optical sensor built into here, so they actually do the same thing. You take them off, your music pauses, and that is fantastic. As far as the ear cups or the pads, the AirPods Max are so easy to remove. They are magnetic, so you guys see, they won't fall out, but you can easily remove them, and you can buy different colors. They are expensive though, and with the Sonys, they're not really designed to be easily removable. They're tucked in with the material, so if you pull, it starts kind of ripping this material, but there are replacements and people have replaced them, and the pros say you should be able to swapping them out about every 2 years. And now let's get into performance. We're gonna start out with active noise cancellation. I'm gonna go ahead and put on the Sonys, but before I turn on the ambient sound control here, I just wanna hear what it sounds like just passively if you're trying to save battery life. Now, that is a pretty good difference right there. A lot of that vent noise is gone. My voice, a lot of the high frequencies are gone now. And now let's go ahead and put on the AirPods Max. And even though they default to active noise cancellation, you can go into the menu here and set it to off. All right, that is interesting. My voice sounds more natural. A lot of noise is cut out, but that vent, I still hear a little bit of noise, but the low end, whereas with the Sonys, I heard some more of that higher end frequencies. Now, let's kick on our active noise cancellation. Woo! Okay, my voice sounds weird. I can still hear some of that vent noise, but some of the high frequencies where it's like the air rushing through. Vadim, go ahead and say something.
Hey man, how do you hear me?
You sound very weird.
Do I?
Yeah, you sound like I usually sound. Your voice sounds very high frequency. All the low end
really?
Is just gone. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's a very good noise cancellation. Go ahead and put on these. Toggle this on. Okay. Wow. I know they sounded good, but putting these head to head, all of that vent noise is gone. My voice is so much quieter, and it sounds natural. It doesn't sound nasally. But you go ahead and say something.
Hey, how do you hear me?
You sound much quieter, about the same as with the Sonys, but your voice still sounds natural. You still have some bass, you sound normal. But yes, so with the AirPods Max, 100% of that AC noise, the central air that's always on and loud in this room is completely gone. Whereas with the Sonys, I still hear a little bit of like the high frequencies there. Let's kick this up a notch. I have some white noise with air compressor sounds here. And I was surprised yesterday using these in my garage. I'm gonna set these down right here. I still hear it. I hear that modulation of sound, that pulsing of the compressor. Oh yeah, massive difference. All right, yes, there definitely is a difference. I still hear everything just like I did here, but these kick it down maybe a couple more decibels compared to the Sonys. So when the Sonys came out not long ago, they made a massive improvement over the XM3s, mainly in that active noise cancellation. And Sony said these are the class leading, the best on the market. Apple also said these are class leading, but they definitely are the best that I've heard, and they are a step above the Sonys. And now let's go ahead and compare the ambient mode and the transparency mode with these headphones, just in case you want to hear what's around you. I'm gonna start out with the Sonys, and let's go ahead and kick these up. And there is a little slider that opens up here, and I'm gonna set it to ambient. Wow, okay. Interesting. I have it set to sound 20. Let's go, actually, all right. Yeah, so this is kind of in between. So if you want to hear everything, you got to set it to sound 20. I'm gonna turn off the focus. Whoa, okay, wow. So I turn that off the focus on voice. Let me hear the difference here. It makes everything sound higher frequency. A little bit digital, but not too bad. Definitely a lot better than what I've heard from other headphones. And that vent noise, it sounds like it's still some noise canceling going on. Vadim, go ahead and say something.
Hit subscribe.
Hit subscribe, there you go, hit subscribe. Say something else.
Tap the like button. Yep, how is it now? Is it changing at all? Does it sound the same, or is it different?
It sounds more nasally. You sound like you have your nose plugged.
It's not, it's fine.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna hit focus on voice here because there's this option. Whoa, okay, yeah. It's,
right.
Go ahead.
How is it now? Any different?
Even more nasally.
Really?
So it brings out your voice more so compared to the background. The background has noise cancellation going on, so I can focus on your voice very well, but you don't sound natural at all. There's also this option called speak to chat. So now we have noise cancellation, and then as soon as I start talking, that's about a 3-second delay, then it kicks you automatically into ambient mode. Oh. All right, so stop talking for a sec. I think it's supposed to go back into noise cancellation mode, but it's a pretty cool feature if you wanted to automatically switch. Now let's go to the AirPods Max. I have them set to the off mode, and there's a lot of cancellation going on by itself. Transparency mode, and wow, okay. Let's switch between. That sounds like 99% of real life. That is crazy. Off, you hear so little. Go to transparency mode. It's piping all that in here, and it's all fake, but it sounds so natural. My voice sounds true to life. Vadim, go ahead and say something.
Hey man, how's it on the AirPods Max?
Okay, say it again.
How is it on the AirPods Max?
You sound almost identical to your voice. A little bit higher, but almost identical. So I'm hearing the vent, just like it literally sounds, the vent sounds identical. All right, so the transparency mode on the AirPods Max is worlds above the Sonys. I don't know if they improved it or not compared to last year, but the difference is insane. And even if you're not gonna buy these, go to the Apple Store and test them out. That is just shocking. And now let's go ahead and do a microphone comparison. We're gonna start out in this room where we had a lot of the HVAC noise, so it's gonna have to deal with that. And then we're gonna move into a quieter room. This is the microphone quality of the Sony XM4s in a fairly noisy room. And this is the microphone quality of the AirPods Max in a fairly noisy environment. And now let's go into that much quieter room and see how they compare in that environment. This is the microphone quality of the Sony XM4s in a really quiet room. This is the microphone quality of the AirPods Max in a really quiet room. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts. Was there a big difference in this noisy room? And what about the difference in the quiet room? Go ahead and comment down below. And now let's go ahead and do a latency test. For those of you guys that want to do some gaming or maybe some video editing or some other things while using these headphones in Bluetooth mode, I'm gonna start out with the AirPods Max. I have Call of Duty Mobile open up right here. Let's go ahead and hit the menu bar. All right, so that was actually very little latency. I do hear a slight delay if I'm trying to focus on it. I know with the AirPods Pro, we tested those at about 150 milliseconds. These are no worse than that, possibly even better. And Vadim yesterday actually played Call of Duty Mobile for a couple of hours, and he said they worked perfectly. He couldn't tell, he got into the game, he didn't notice any delay. Now let's put on the Sony's. Oh yeah, much more of a difference. So this is probably like 1/3 of a second difference or so. So if you're gonna be gaming, I mean, it's not as bad as some of the Samsungs I've tested, which those are over half a second, about 700 milliseconds. This is probably about 300 or so. So about twice as much of a delay compared to the AirPods Max. I also wanted to try these with Android. So I have the Pixel 5 here and it's making me go through the tutorial. I think the delay is actually worse here. Let me try that again. Yeah, no longer is it about 300 milliseconds. This is at least half a second. Yeah, when I press it, it's at least half a second now. Now with the XM3s, you did have an aptX codec that had less delay, but with the XM4s, you don't have the option. I'm using LDAC right now. And because of that, the delay is pretty bad. And it's interesting that it's actually worse on Android than iOS. And now let's get into sound quality. We're gonna listen to a few different genres, even to some ultra high quality audio wired. I'm gonna start out with the Sony's with our typical song. I'm gonna go ahead and take a listen and then I'll give you guys my opinions. All right guys, that was interesting. First off, they are much closer together than I expected. A lot of the sounds are fairly similar, and this is an EDM track. In our previous tests, we found this is the least difficult one to reproduce. I noticed a couple differences though. As far as the overall bass, the Sony's actually output more bass. And one thing that really stood out is you have more of that deep, lower bass, and it sounds a little bit more boomy. And the AirPods, they still have a lot of low end bass, but you have more separation between that really low rumble kind of bass and then the popping bass that comes out. Where with the Sony's, they kind of blend in a little bit together. And then the other difference that I noticed is the vocals. They're a little bit more bright on the Sony's, where they sound a little bit maybe more natural, a little bit more subdued with the AirPods. So let's go ahead and switch to another genre. This is a modern classical track with some piano and some low notes. All right. Wow, that was definitely a lot more different than the first song. I love the song, guys. Now it's getting stuck in both of you in my head. What can I say? I liked the extra bass out of these. Maybe I'm a bass head. I don't know, the bass definitely stands out more. There's more of it, and it sounded great in this song, which is like that deep bass. That sounded great. The other thing I noticed is these definitely have a better sound stage. With the Sony's, they're definitely better than earbuds. It feels like the sound is right around here, right? I get a little bit of separation, I get some instruments moving around, but with the AirPods, it feels like the speakers around me are twice as far away. The sound stage is much wider, and I don't know if I want to say localization of instruments, certain parts, it feels like I moved my hand like right here. Instead of somewhere here, it's further away, and that sweep just sounded so much more dramatic. And the same thing with the piano. I almost feel like there's keys, instead of just switching from one ear to the other, bam, 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 right in front of me as he's playing down. And then towards the end there, with that sweep, we got some distortion with the Sony's, just like with the AirPods Pro in yesterday's video, whereas the AirPods Max had absolutely no distortion, and they definitely sounded better. And now let's make it even more difficult. We have a rock track here in our previous testing. This is much more difficult for headphones to play, so let's go ahead and take a listen. Okay. I don't want to say this is a bigger difference than our previous track, but it sounds, the difference between those two tracks were crazy. These sound more like the AirPod Pros. I know it's kind of weird to say. They sound almost flat in this song, where they absolutely didn't. They were more colored in the previous one. The separation between the different bass and the bass guitar and the drums there wasn't much at all, just like earbuds, whereas here, there was much more separation, and the actual bass guitar and then the drums, there's a lot more richness and depth. And one thing that I was looking for in these that I didn't hear, when you have all that sound towards the beginning, there's almost like a violin in the background, where with these you can actually hear it. And I never heard it before with the AirPod Pros. I didn't hear it with the Sonys, but they do stand out here. So the separation between the instruments is much greater with the AirPod Pros. I wanna make sure that I'm getting the best sound out of these, so I connected it to the Pixel 5 using that LDAC codec, and this is a high quality stream, still from YouTube, but it's 1080p. Let me take a listen, I'll get back to you guys. Yeah, it sounds identical. I honestly can't tell a difference, maybe if it was a better source, but that little violin in the background with all the bass and electric guitar and drums all smashed together, I still don't hear it on the Sonys, where I do on the AirPod Max, which these only use AAC connection. And now it's time for the ultimate test. I connected the wire here, and I have this crazy high quality file. Thank you, Hi-Fi Insider, a viewer of our channel, for sharing this. This is recorded by MA Audio. The file's over 500 megabytes. It's 176 kilohertz uncompressed audio. So let's go ahead and take a listen. Okay, wow, overall, wow, I guess I have to start listening to more audio that's really high quality, uncompressed, through wired. So listening to that track with these plugged in really opened up these headphones. It was the first time, instead of the soundstage just being, slightly wider, it expanded further out, more so closer to the AirPod Max, about the same level. And I started hearing the piano going around and some interesting instruments moving around. Definitely made these sound better, but a couple times I actually had to turn down the volume because it started distorting. I turned it down a little bit and then later turned down even more so. It's pretty loud. Very interesting that with the AirPods, overall, even at the start, they started out quieter. I kept them full blast all the time. I know you probably shouldn't do that, but I love it like that. They were a little bit quieter and there was no distortion whatsoever. Now with that, the soundstage was even wider with this song, and there's more separation between the different instruments, and it just made me want to learn to play piano. It sounded really good. And I also noticed some more room noise. So this was recording with really, really high-end stereo mics in like a cathedral. I heard more of the room noise and some background noises that was going on while they were recording this. So definitely these sound better and no distortion at all, but these also sounded pretty good after I turned them down. All right guys, it's finally time for the conclusion. Are the AirPods Max worth twice as much as the Sonys? And to be honest, this is a very difficult question, but I've been thinking about it. I'm gonna try to break it down for you guys. If you're somebody that is mainly looking for a pair of headphones that are really good for active noise cancellation and audio comes second, or if you're on a budget and you know you can't afford these, but you can afford these, or lastly, if you listen to mostly EDM, some more similar type of music, these are a great option. Sure, the active noise cancellation isn't as good, but it's close. Ambient mode is much worse, but the sound for that kind of more simple music, it does a good job. A lot of bass, it's more colored, the high notes stand out more. It sounds great in that aspect. But if you care about convenience, especially with iPhones, and you want the music to sound above just an average pair of headphones, definitely the AirPods Max, they're on a whole nother level as far as soundstage separation, especially for rock music and even classical. It sounds much better. Definitely take a listen to a pair yourselves at an Apple store. These are starting to get into the audiophile range with a lot of conveniences and active noise cancellation, where these are just all around decent quality sound with really good active noise cancellation. My Audio Technicas actually sound better than these, and those are about 150 bucks. They are wired though. And in reality, if you care about active noise cancellation, you might just want to get a pair of AirPod Pros. The sound quality, other than the extra bass, is very similar between these two. You just get a little bit worse active noise cancellation, but a lot more convenience. And in fact, I actually just use my AirPod Pros instead of the Sony XM3s because there's not that big of a difference. So that's it for me, guys. The Sonys are great price, way better case, but these, if you can afford them, they are on another level. Go ahead and click that circle above if you want to subscribe and see our full in-depth review with long-term comfort, battery life, and more. And check out one of those other 2 great videos right over there. We have links down in the video description to some great prices. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next video.